All right, we're going to great lengths here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. We're live streaming right now. Okay, we aren't pre-taping. We're not packaging anything. We are live and in color. I'm from Boston, in my son's campus apartment, if you can believe it. And if I could just scan the floor, you'd have no trouble believing it, but I won't do that. I'll spare you. But we've got all the cast and characters here, Joe, Jordan, and Mac from PEI. Mac, I'm on the road. I got no RV, but you can feel for me right now, can't you?
Well, you know what? You're having trouble adjusting. You're used to being spoiled in that basement of yours with the high tech background and your book and your 2 pucks on the wall. The question I have in Boston: do they know the Stanley Cup playoffs are going on?
Not as much as if they had the black and gold involved. No question about that. And it's interesting. Just prior to going on air live here, we were talking to Joe and Jordan, and they just gave us some breaking news that they hired some TikTok. The NHL decided to go into the new world of TikTok and signed one of the biggest names out there. Of course, we don't know who that is, Mac. Little out of our demographic. But boys, you think this is big news for the NHL, because Game 1 with NBC had the lowest rating Stanley Cup final since 2007. That's not good news for Gary Bettman and the NHL.
So, guys, is TikTok like a clock, or what the hell is TikTok?
Doug, you know what TikTok is. Come on, bro. TikTok is honestly I love TikTok. I don't care what anyone says. I think it's fun.
Do.
You know,
so who is it?
Is that like when two people dance together and stuff with the same moves? Is that what TikTok is?
I don't know what that would be, actually. Okay. I might be dating myself there. So Josh Richards, I honestly don't know much about him. I know that there is a very large group of, I guess we could call them these TikTokers, that just have amassed massive followings over the past few years, mostly the past year. 2 million on Twitter. I think he has 40 million across all socials. Prior to the conversation getting started today, Joe and I were kind of trying to predict maybe how much this deal with the NHL was worth. Joe and I think it's have a lot of zeros, maybe a 7-figure deal plus. Kyper and Mac might disagree. Let us know in the chat what you think as you're pressing that like button today.
Okay. So explain to me. So he has 7 million TikTok followers. So does he put out TikTok video after TikTok video? Is that what he does?
I will open up his TikTok for us on air so we could see what it's like. But basically, when you're at this level of being a social media influencer, everything changes. Right now, you can see his bio on Twitter. He's a GP, maybe that's general partner at Animal Capital, that has a $15 million bank account for capital investment. Founder at an energy drink. Dog for Dog, which is a movement to help feed dogs in America. Crosscheck Stud, which is a production company. You know, it's just these people, they just were hot commodities this year. You saw a lot with this, especially with female TikTokers doing, becoming musicians and becoming, launching full albums and stuff like that. Really just shows where we're at in the world. But honestly, I think Joe and I think it's a really good thing that the NHL might be hiring this guy. I wonder what more old school people might think on the topic.
There's a lot of stuff, Doug. Think about it this way. Like, this kid, I don't know how old he is, Jordan, 21, 20, something like that. Like, he's got a very young demographic, which would be something that I'm sure the NHL would be interested in increasing. Like, I understand that maybe TikTok not as valuable as some of the other platforms in some ways, but I mean, the amount of eyeballs, just the podcast he does alone with Barstool and Dave Portnoy, like, it's just a totally different audience, right? So, like, anytime you can grab a completely different group of people that might never be interested in hockey with a guy of this type of stature, like these guys are superstars, like, believe it or not. Like, the amount of money that they're getting for a post to put something just in their bio, it's crazy numbers, guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're on top of it, and you got, with the way professional sports today, you've got to encourage people to watch. So I think it's a good move.
Joe, you got the over that this guy, the NHL stroked the check for this guy over $1 million a year. I cannot believe that for 1 second. Especially
any amount of money you want to
Bettman
put on the table, Kyper. I'll take that action any day of the week. These guys are getting probably close to 6 figures for an Instagram post at times, Kyper, depending on who it is.
TikTok right now, and there's a couple comments in chat that I want to hit on because I don't necessarily have any issues with them, but I just find it interesting. So on his TikToks on the screen right now, he had a video, I believe, yesterday, 942,000 views. 3.8 million on the one before that, 6.7 million, 1.7, 2.2, 4.6, 1.6, 1.3. I don't think those NBC ratings were anywhere close to that. So
when you look at those astronomical numbers, how many of those followers are diehard NHL fans? Or more importantly, if they're not, how many can he convert?
How many could he convince that hockey is cool, is fun?
Yeah.
So Jeremiah in chat has a very good point. He says there are YouTube content creators that talk actual hockey. This guy is not a hockey fan. Get a kid that does talk hockey. I would say that judging by his persona, he is actually a big hockey guy. Is he a big hockey content creator? Obviously not. No, he is, the mainstream content creator. But I don't know how much I agree or disagree with that statement, but he's a kid. He's 19 years old. I mean, at 19, you knew a lot less about hockey than you do now, obviously, right?
All I know is if they're paying him $1 million a year, they're going to want their money's worth, and they're going to put him to work. And I'm not sure if he's on that same work schedule that the NHL would want him at $1 million a year. That you guys think that they're paying.
It could be, Kyper, but I mean, he did just post a video on TikTok that was NHL related, 6 minutes ago, and it's got 15,000 likes, almost 600 comments. So it really just has to be a very, very small number that he converts into thinking hockey is cool for it to be a pretty worthwhile investment.
It's just not about eyeballs, guys. With the NHL, it's turning the eyeballs into cash. Okay, how can he turn those followers into season ticket holders, jersey buyers, whatever the case is? It has to convert into money, not just viewership. That's my only point.
I guess I would say that I completely agree that I would find it unlikely that his direct involvement is aimed at increasing ticket sales or any physical sales outside of maybe the popularization of certain merch. But I think for him, what his aim will be on the digital aspect of things, getting ratings up on alternate streams of, broadcasts and then the major broadcasts. Yeah. We saw that ESPN just announced their play-by-play teams and stuff. So, maybe we'll see in the next 2 to 5 years, some more big money coming out from the partners like Turner and ESPN.
Well, they're going to need it because we know there's a flat cap that a lot of teams are going to have issues with the next few years. All right, thanks for that input, guys, on TikTok. Now, Mac, me and you can dissect what we saw in Game 1. What can we expect in Game 2 moving forward? The Montreal Canadiens, their bread and butter throughout the first, second, and third round, I don't think was really seen in Game 1, but it wasn't seen in Game 1 against Toronto. It wasn't seen in Game 1 against Vegas. So they do get the benefit of the doubt to make adjustments going into Game 2.
Well, you know what? Game 1 in the 1993 Stanley Cup Finals. So that would indicate to me that they're going to be up. They're going to be fine. If it goes back to 1993, they lost Game 1. They lost Game 1 to Vegas, Game 1 to Toronto. They're in good shape. I'm a little nervous. I watched a game that was a team, not Vegas, but Tampa Bay. That to me, when I sat back after that game, I said, "Okay, just a minute. Do they have the best goaltender in the league? Well, one of the top 2, for sure. Do they have the best defense in the league? Probably. Do they have the best forward group in the league? Probably. Do they have the best scorer in the playoffs? Yes." That's a pretty potent team that we watched the other night. They were hitting on all cylinders in Game 1. Montreal were lucky to be 2-1 after 1 and, got away in the third. But look, it was a Tampa Bay team that I thought played exceptionally well. I thought they were physical. I thought they were fast. I thought they moved the puck with ease out of their zone, through the neutral zone, scoring chances. Carey Price was spectacular at times. This is a hell of a hockey team in game one. How the hell did the Islanders take this game to 7 and lose 1-0 in the last game? But it's only one game, and you're right.
If we talk about, I think at times the term making adjustments can be overrated, and really it comes down to just a bigger effort, hitting a level that we know that they can hit against the first 3 teams that they faced. But if we are talking adjustments for a second, let's strictly talk about line matchups and the fact that Danault didn't see Braden Point, and that Cooper was able to get Point out there with Suzuki and basically ate up Suzuki for breakfast.
Yeah, so, we talked about this a lot this year, about the youth of the center ice of the Montreal Canadiens, Suzuki, Kotkaniemi in particular, kids that have played unbelievably well, better than I ever anticipated they would play. Danault has been a great centerman from a shutdown perspective. I can score almost as well as he can, but he's an unbelievable shutdown guy. 64% on faceoffs in the regular season. Unbelievable how well he's done. So what about matchups? Well, work at it. Like, you have got to work at matchups. Okay, it's last change for Cooper. I get that. But listen, just think about this if you're playing tonight. I want Danault opposite. I'm on the road and I don't have the last change. What do you have to do? You got to get Danault against Point. I don't care about Gallagher and Luukkonen. I want Danault on the ice against them. So what do? I make sure Danault's on the ice. And Suzuki goes with Gallagher and Kotkaniemi if he has to. If he has to, you got to make that subtle switch. It's not going to change your game. For me, it's not going to change. But I want at least Danault on the ice, and I want my defense pair I want against them, and I make sure I get it. If I have to change on the fly, I have to get whistles, it's got to be a big part of your strategy. If I come out of the game and I've got Danault against Point and we still lose, at least I know I'm giving it everything I got from a defensive side. So I'm getting him out there. Saying Cooper's a genius for getting that matchup. Are you shitting me? They didn't even try to match it. You got to try. You got to work at it. You got to have your team ready. You got to be focused on the bench. Okay, Suzuki's coming, Danault, you're going, and I need you on the ice for that minute against these guys. Simple as that.
As far as that blue line, we know the workload that Weber's had and Sherratt.
Yep.
Is there a chance that they can get something off of the last 48 hours, or is fatigue starting to set in on these guys and the wave of 4 lines? Because we do know that Tampa Bay is so deep, and they've got a physical element, Mac, that's unwavering right now.
Yeah, I mean, I really was impressed with. I mean, just think about Barclay Goodrow, physical, battling. Coleman, physical, battling. I mean, the whole team, I thought, were physical presence. Is it going to affect their blue line? Yeah, but I still think that Luke has to know who he wants against Braden Point. I'll take my chances 5-on-5 against everybody else on that hockey team. I'll take my chances that I can go with Edmondson, Petrie against most of them 5-on-5. But Luke knows who he wants against Point. And it's got to be, obviously, the big 4 have got to be there. You can't get caught with Merrill out there. You can't get caught with Gustafsson out there against Point. It's got to be the big 4. And I think, but it's more than that. It's defending, but you can't have turnovers the way they turned the puck over. You can't have blatant turnovers at the offensive blue line and have Point and Kucherov coming back at you. That's going to tire your blue line out. So puck placement, getting the puck deep, making sure you're not turning over. I guarantee you Luke has been preaching this nonstop. Because if you're going to turn the puck over against Point's line and Kucherov's line, it's bad enough the way they back check that they converge on you even when you're going on offense because they're coming back so hard. So this is a big coaching game tonight. A big coaching game tonight.
We had talked about
there you go, Kyper. Your camera is back on. Thanks.
We had talked, Mac, about last week about Point now going into a place in history as being one of those guys we're going to remember as a true go-to guy in the playoffs. Kucherov, another 30 points in a playoff run. Only 2 other guys in history have done that. Like it's not enough that we're talking about one guy against history, but now we're talking about 2 forwards. Mm-hmm. I look at what Cole Caulfield is able to have achieved in such a short period of time, which is truly remarkable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But for Montreal now to have him as probably their best game breaker against that is such a tall task.
But not, and you're 100% right, Nick, and Suzuki and he and Kotkaniemi. But you add to that and you say, what about the way Hedman's playing and McDonough's playing and Sergachev's playing and Chernak, who gets up the ice and scores a big goal to get a goal the other night, and Savard is playing. I mean, this is a blue line that is tough to play against. This is a big, mobile, strong blue line that's tough to play against. So that's why I go back. You've got to take your chances on puck placement. You saw how Montreal scored their goal. It was get the puck to the net and a couple of deflections, and you get a goal and you're 2-1 after 2 periods. But this is a tough blue line to play against. Make no mistake about that. That's a tough blue line to play against for veterans, let alone for young guys that are finding their way in the NHL. And I have full marks to these kids. I mean, they've carried Montreal's mail a lot of the nights. And, full marks. Montreal, hey, it was 2-1 after 2.
But
it wasn't really close.
No, it was not.
It wasn't really close. But Montreal, I think, can play better. But you've got to get your matchups. You've got to make sure you've got to shut down that point line. You've got to shut them down, or you have no chance to win this game. And how do you do that? Tough.
If you're Carey Price now, do you feel like you can go to another level, or it's just about what you see in front of you to give them a chance?
No, I think Carey Price. I mean, I thought Carey Price was spectacular after 2 periods.
It could have been a lot uglier, Matt, without him.
It could. I thought he made 5 or 6 great saves there. I really did. I really liked Carey Price's game. I mean, what about the what do you call it? The windmill catch. I mean, look, he was amazing. By the way, I saw a clip this morning on Twitter. A guy, it was Pierre Maguire at Carey Price's draft when Montreal selected Carey Price at 5. Maguire ripped the Montreal Canadiens for taking Carey Price, because how could they be so dumb to not take Gilbert Brûlé? They took Carey Price. What are they thinking about?
And you only bring that up because that was your guy, Gilbert.
That was my pick. But anyway, it's funny how it works out. But anyway, it was good to see it.
We don't. Good thing we don't have the clips of your mistakes.
Oh, there's a few of them out there.
Mac, if we see a lot of play dictated in game 2 like we did in game 1, is this going to end up being a shorter series than most would have liked?
Well, when you know what, Montreal have played so well. They've shown so much resilience. Carey Price could win them the game tonight. He's done that too many times. If I'm going in and I'm Luke Richardson, I'm thinking, well, just a minute. The Islanders took these guys to 7 games. The Islanders are a more veteran group. I get that. But they, after their big four on the blue line, they were thin. They got the youngster in Dobson and the veteran in Green, but they weren't overly thin. Their Islanders' goaltending is not as good as Montreal's. The Islanders' defense is no better than Montreal's. And their forwards are really no better than Montreal's. So why would you not think you have a chance? I mean, they took Tampa Bay to 7 and lost 1-0 in the final game. So to me, I think Montreal, I mean, look, it's going to be tough. I get that. Tampa's the overwhelming favorite. I get that. But hey, Montreal have shocked some people. They got hammed. We said after game 1, they can't play with Vegas. They can't handle a physical play in Vegas. They physically dominated Vegas in the rest of the series.
Yeah, and that's why you give them the benefit of the doubt now. Mm-hmm. Optics, what you see sometimes can change within 48 hours, and that's what you got to hope for Montreal, that we saw it against the Leafs, we saw it against Vegas, and we're going to have to see it as early as game 2, Matt. Getting down 2-0, that 2-0 hole against this team, when Chernak's your best player on the ice, pretty much up there with Point and Kucherov, you know you're going to be a tough team to beat, because that guy was an absolute horse, and his name's not Hedman or Ryan McDonough.
No, he's been a solid performer for a couple of years for this team or more. I mean, he's a big guy in the back end. He plays a physical game, and he can move. And I you like him. I mean, somebody mentioned to me they couldn't wait to see Vegas play against Tampa in the finals, because they wanted to see the Reeves and these guys go after Chernak and see how tough he is. Well, I don't know how tough he is, but I know one thing: he plays tough, and I know one thing: he's a valuable guy in this hockey team, and he's a young guy.
You've been pretty good in the last few weeks with your Montreal Canadiens predictions, way better than me. People on social media, on Twitter, saying, "Kyper, shut up, listen to Mac." Hey, guess what?
They've been saying that for a couple of years on this show.
Hey, my lips are sealed on this one, Mac. Take the floor away and tell us what's going to happen in game 2.
Oh, I'm really nervous. I'm glad I'm not putting any money on it. I expect to see a lot better Montreal team tonight. I really do. They've got to get their forecheck game going. They got it going against Vegas. They've got to get the puck in deep, and they've got to generate some forecheck. And if they don't do that, they don't have a chance to win. So no turnovers, puck placement, get it in good spots where you have a chance to recover it. Be a little bit, be energized. I don't know if they can out-physical. I don't think they can out-physical the Tampa blue line, but they've got to be able to out-finesse them a bit. And we'll see what happens. I think we'll see a lot better Montreal team tonight. I really do.
Excuse me, that's not what I asked you. Answer the damn question. What's going to happen tonight? Who wins and who loses?
I got to say Montreal wins tonight.
All right, that's all we wanted.
But you know what? I have had a pretty good run going. I'd be a wealthy guy right now if I was betting on my predictions. So, I'm hoping I'm not off tonight, but I've had a pretty good run.
Well, Montreal Canadian fans love you for it. So let's hope you're right, and we can extend this thing into a series that can potentially get into a 6 or 7 game scenario. All right, Mac, listen, so much happening around the league. I want to get into it a little bit with you before we sign off. And of course, it's great that everybody's out there watching. We're still bringing it. I'm in Boston, Mac's in PEI, Joe and Jordan, Colorado, Minnesota. Hey, we're here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. So let's talk a little bit about what we're hearing around the league. Let's first and foremost talk about Jonathan Toews of the Chicago Blackhawks. He came out publicly and stated that he's been diagnosed with, if I'm correct in saying, chronic immune response syndrome. And Mac, when you look at the wear and tear on these athletes in general, Jonathan's a little bit, unlike a Sidney Crosby, who we know suffered a major concussion. This one fell into we're not really sure what's wrong with him, but he's going to take the full year off and regroup. And I don't know if this might be a way of managing your careers if you plan on playing 15 or 20 years, that you literally take a year off.
And he's not taking this coming year off again, is he?
No, this past year.
Yes,
he made
100%.
the decision.
Yes,
he made
100%.
the decision to take the year off to manage the issues that he's had. I'm just starting to think that this might be a way of players now in the future, if they want to play 15 or 20 years, saying, yeah, I'm going to take a year off. And I'm not suggesting that this was pre-planned even before Taves felt, all these symptoms. But in the future, I think players, if they feel like they're not up to the challenge mentally, physically, emotionally, it's going to be okay to take a year off like Jonathan just did. You don't like hearing that. You don't like hearing that because you're management, right? You're paid to do a job.
Well, I guess the question is, it depends on the situation. I understand Jonathan Taves had an illness and he had to have it looked after. Kucherov had an injury, had to have it looked after. I mean, are we going to see Hedman take next year off because he's got an injury and he's got to have surgery? And we're going to see him take the whole year off?
Are you, did you throw Hedman out there? Because that's what what are you hearing?
I just heard a rumbling that he's playing injured, and don't be surprised if this guy doesn't play next year, but be ready for the playoffs. Could there be any truth to that?
You're suggesting now for a second consecutive year that Tampa Bay may take a player off their roster and just bring him back for the playoffs? Okay, are you kidding me?
Gary Bettman said at his press conference the other day that, it's been in place since 2005, the LTI, and he had no problem with what transpired. Now, somebody mentioned to me that Hedman's playing hurt. I don't know. Somebody mentioned to me that don't be surprised if he doesn't play next year. I mean, I guess my problem is it an injury, which I'm sure it is with Kucherov? Is it an injury with other people or an illness? Then I have no trouble with it, as long as it doesn't become a strategy of teams.
Shit is going to hit the fan if Tampa tries this again with Hedman next year.
Well, I don't know if it's true. Like I said, don't quote me on this. Somebody mentioned to me, do not be surprised. Don't be surprised by this. I said, well, I would really be surprised by this. I would really be surprised by this. I can't believe that would be the case.
Wow.
Now, listen, if there's an injury, if a guy has a serious injury and he needs surgery, we've seen it where it's 6 months for surgery. We've seen where guys are out for extended periods of time. The Kucherov one bothered a lot of people. It bothered a lot of people because when you lose to this team and he gets 30 points and he didn't play one game in the regular season and he's 100% when he comes back, it bothered a lot of people. It didn't bother Bettman, because why it didn't bother Bettman is because it's within the rules. It's within the rules. So they had every right to do it. Every right to do it.
I start this conversation on a simple comment that we're going to see more players take time off to handle their mental health, their physical ailments, their emotional state of mind. And you've turned this into a second consecutive year for Tampa Bay.
I didn't say it was the truth.
Tucks away one of their star players so they can win another Stanley Cup next year.
I didn't say it was the truth. I'm just telling you what I heard.
All right. Well, that's some interesting topic of discussion, I'm sure, for all our viewers on their comments now. Would Tampa Bay dare try that again?
No, I can't believe they would.
Way to stir it up, Mac. Way to stir it up.
You know what? There was a time I used to hear a lot of stuff and I could never say it. Now whatever I hear, I say. It's no big deal. But
well,
Don Granato, I see Don Granato got the job in Buffalo, so that was good for Donnie. And
do you think
if Torch's buddy buys a team, we'll see what happens.
Do you think that was the plan all along? But it was important for Kevin Adams to have the optics, like he did his due diligence and shopped around. It was always his job to keep, I guess.
I guess it was. I mean, look, Donnie's been a lifer. I've known him forever. I really happen to like the guy. He was in Columbus when I got there, coaching in the East Coast Hockey League with the Columbus Chill, and he's a good person, and he's a good hockey guy, and he's been around forever. I have no problem that he got the job. I had no problem. So, they interviewed a bunch of people, but, I'm not surprised that he was the guy that survived. I'm not surprised. I don't know where they're going as a franchise right now. It's going to be a tough year, but, I don't think they're ready for the big coach yet. And you know what? Listen to some experts out there and made some big hires recently, and they've been disasters. They've had big recommendations come to them, the Pagulas, to hire Ralph Kruger, and to hire this guy and to hire that guy. I mean, the last couple of coaching hires have been disasters there, starting with Bausma and going to Kruger. Disasters. So big name guys didn't pan out. So and you know what else I heard? By the way, what else I heard the other day was that the coach that was hired in Seattle was one of their only. He was the number one guy all along. All along.
Okay, before we get into Hackstall and Seattle,
seriously,
with the naming of Granato as head coach, does all of the attention now go back on Adams and what the hell to do with Eichel? And will this happen before the draft, during the draft? But this has to happen fairly quickly. I'm hearing, Mac, that the only one that's really showed an aggressive push right now is Bob Murray in Anaheim. There are a lot of people monitoring the situation, but as far as showing probably the most interest, I got to think Anaheim right now.
Well, I think Anaheim is a logical situation. We know they were involved in the Dubois, didn't get them. They've got some good prospects in their group. To me, it makes sense, and it also makes sense for Buffalo. They can get a couple of good prospects, players, and they can get them out to the West Coast and get them out. For them to move them to the Rangers would be idiotic for me. So I would move them as far west as I could, as long as you get the assets that make the deal doable. Bob Murray's got to do something with Anaheim. They're used to winning. They've had a good franchise, and they do not like being in the bottom of the league. And Bob Murray doesn't like being in the bottom of the league. So I can see that. I think you're probably right that they're one of the big choices. If I'm a GM out there today, I might be more focused on getting Seth Jones than I would be focused on getting Eichel.
So much speculation in the media on how many pieces Kevin Adams wants. And of course, his wish list can be anything he wants. But the reality is, Mac, is how much would you be willing to give up, even if you are Bob Murray, and what would it take? If you're Buffalo with Anaheim, I would think Zegras or Draisaitl would have to be on the table, Mac, and the third overall pick.
Well, that's what you would think. I mean, Zegras is tough to give up. Drysdale's tough to get. They're top young kids. High picks are tough to give up, but that's what it's going to take. And also, can you get them to hold some money? Can you get Buffalo to hold some of the $10 million? That to me would be the logical starting point. Tampa have the prospect base that they have an opportunity to get this done. I'm not sure the Rangers. I guess the Rangers have some great young players. I mean, they've had the first pick since Christ was a Cowboy. I mean, like, seriously, they got lots of young players there. So hopefully they can make the right deal. But I see him go. I'll be surprised if he doesn't go west. And you can guarantee with the ownership of the New York Rangers And with Glenn Sather back heavily in the mix and a new GM in Drury, they're trying to make a big splash, and a new coach. They're trying to make a splash. I'm not sure if Eichel's the right splash.
The other team, and this may be a dark horse here, but Colorado, Mac, we know they fell short against Vegas. They're not happy. They want a different look. The other thing I did hear about Colorado is that Joe Sakic and Nazem Kadri had a very good exit meeting, and there's no reason in the world to think that he will not be back next season in Colorado.
Well, you know what? I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said one of the reasons he's going to be back in Colorado, they think, is because they desperately need him. They are thin down the middle. I mean, you go the big guy in McKinnon, and then you're scrambling. And they not only need a number 2 centerman, I think they need a number 3 centerman, and they need a centerman. They need centermen that play at playoff time.
Well,
Kadri blew it. Kadri blew it.
He did.
It was a disaster.
But if you
twice,
if you were able to lock up next year, McKinnon, Eichel, and Kadri, that's pretty good. Come on, there's your center. There's your Stanley Cup run.
Yeah, I you know what, I wouldn't go there. I go McKinnon. I would not go Eichel. They need the money on Makar on the back end to get him done. I'm not sold on their goaltending to be a Stanley Cup goaltender. I'm not going Eichel. If I'm Colorado, I am not going Eichel.
Guess who is the next player forced into retirement next year? Eric Johnson. That's $6 million off the books that they're going to have to get rid of. That's going to be a very difficult conversation, but I can't see him coming back at all.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't, you know what? Like, Eichel's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. I'd be really nervous to pull that one off. I think I really like their blue line, but I watched Girard really struggle at playoff time, Nick, really struggle against Vegas when it really counted. I know he's a good regular season guy. I watched their center ice struggle with guys down the middle that aren't playoff type guys. Isn't it amazing? Most GMs are talking right now, we need guys that play at playoff time. Toronto are talking that way. I guess that's why they signed Steve Simmons. You know what?
Wayne, not Steve. If they signed Steve Simmons, they'd be really in trouble.
Steve Simmons. They're signing him as the PR. He's the new Gary Lawless of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, you need those PR guys that are your PR people and your media guys. Yeah, Simmons. Not Steve.
Wayne.
They may. Oh, which would be, you know, if they could have got Steve for $500,000, I might have done that one instead of Wayne. But anyway.
Is that the same conversation we had a week and a half ago when they signed Spezza? Except we put Simmons' name in. I don't get that from the Toronto Maple Leafs. How you give minimum wage to Jason Spezza, but you want to give $150,000 more to Wayne Simmons? Can you explain that? And another year.
I'm not going to try to explain it because I also watched the other day when Montreal Canadiens were going to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Toronto Maple Leafs had a big announcement hiring a general manager of the Toronto Marlies from the Chicago Steel of the USHL. And I like the guy, Ryan. He's a good hire.
Yeah.
But, like, shut up already. We don't want to hear that this time of year. Announce it when it's a slow day, not when Montreal, who knocked you out, are going to the finals. People don't want to hear USHL, GM of the Marlies, in Stanley Cup playoff time. Announce it at a different time. Simmons, I don't know. Like, I don't know. He didn't play very well.
Clearly,
I didn't like the signing. I didn't like the signing last year. You know that. I didn't like him or Thornton, but they had a good years for them during the regular season. So I have to keep my mouth shut.
Wayne Simmons he was doing well up until he broke his wrist, and then it was a disaster since then. But he'll get another crack at it. But clearly they're doubling down.
2 years.
They're doubling down on believing whatever they started is going to win them next year. I don't see it.
Okay, I have to say this right now, and I know you probably don't agree with me, but what is the number one thing we're watching right now this time of year?
Goaltending.
We're watching unbelievable goaltending, and they're going to go into next year with a goaltender who has played one round of the playoffs.
Well,
and they got him. There's no question there about Jack Campbell is the number one guy. He's the guy that can do it. And I'm thinking, wow, I don't know if this is going to be, I don't know. I mean, we saw him play 20 really good games. We really liked him. We thought he played great. But is he a Stanley Cup winning goaltender? I don't know about that.
There is some talk
If he falters, where do they go?
Freddie Anderson, apparently, they might be speaking to him about coming back.
Okay.
You don't even want to go with that conversation.
No, I don't want to go there.
Just more of the same. That's your whole point. More of the same.
Well, what they should do is they should keep Freddie on LTI all season and just bring him back for the playoffs.
Now you're being a smart ass.
So they save the $5 million in cap space and can use it to get a defenseman or two to help them win the Stanley Cup.
Okay, enough about the Leafs. Also making big news out west, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. A little over $40 million, but they give him 8 years, Mac. I had heard that they thought that they had an agreement for something closer to $6 million a year, and it was pulled off the table, and it sat for a very long time. And then Nugent-Hopkins coming back and agreeing to something a little over $5 million. Is that just good business by the Edmonton Oilers? Smart business. They love the AAV at $5 million. Does Kenny Holland really give a crap about the 8 years?
Probably not. And the thing, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is a good top six guy. He gets a lot of points playing on the power play with McDavid and Draisaitl. I don't think he's worth any more. I don't think it's that great a deal. I like him. I think he's a good player. And I think $5 million is a fair deal. And if it was $5 million times 5, I think it was a very good deal. I don't know why everybody's saying this is the greatest deal since sliced bread. Well, I don't know. I mean, I like them. They need them because they're not very deep up front.
Yeah.
$5 million is good, I guess. You know, when you look at the names of guys that are making a lot more, I guess it's a good deal. Just doesn't excite me really, to be quite honest. If they signed a defenseman, you know, another big guy to play in the back end, or if they signed a number one goaltender, I'd be more excited. I mean, they're saying he wants to stay there because of the winning culture. Didn't they lose 4 straight this year?
Well, everybody wants to stay where Wayne Simmons wants to stay because he wants to win a Stanley Cup. It's kind of a foregone conclusion. Those are like quotes in a can. You just pull them out after you sign.
Well, and look, Tampa Bay can only sign so many guys. You can't all play in Tampa Bay or in the 2 or 3 places that really have legitimate chances. So, I mean, I keep coming back. Like, I want to know where Seth Jones ends up. I want to know, is it Philadelphia? Is it Dallas? Where does Seth Jones end up? That's the deal I want to see. I heard yesterday, I mean, there's talks apparently with Philadelphia. Baraby's name is in the mix. Philip Myers' name is in the mix. A couple of prospects, draft picks. What does Chuck Fletcher have to do? Chuck Fletcher needs another big defenseman. And Chuck Fletcher needs to win this coming year. Does that make sense? of affiliate. Farabee's a really good player. He played 1 year at Boston University, 20-goal scorer in his second year with the Flyers. He's 21. He's a good player, U.S. national team, a development team kid. I mean, Philip Myers, young defenseman, right-hand shot, 6'5", skates great, had an off year last year. I think it'd be, interesting names in the Seth Jones deal. So Philly probably are trying. So, that's who I don't care where Eichel ends up. I don't care as much as I care where Seth Jones. I want to see what team gets him.
Would you trade?
Would you sign Eichel if you were Colorado, or would you sign Seth Jones?
Well, Seth Jones, it would be hard to look at Makar and Seth Jones at $20 million.
Yeah, it would be. That's the challenge. You're right. That's the challenge.
So, which brings me to my point.
So you got Eichel and Makar, $20 million. What's the difference?
Would you sign, if you're Philly? Would you give up those assets you just mentioned, not knowing for sure that he'd stick around long term, or would there have to be an agreement in place?
Oh, Chuck's got to have an agreement. You cannot give up the assets that Columbus are talking about and not have a deal done. Chuck's got to get a deal done if he's going to be involved in making that deal. You cannot take that chance of Seth Jones walking as an unrestricted free agent and give up those assets. See, that's a job killer right there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that could potentially just trade for the 1 year. I threw out a while ago, Mac. I don't know if you remember that Colorado actually rents Seth Jones for 1 year.
Yeah,
and then lets him walk.
Yeah, I know. I know, but what's the rental price? I mean, Columbus are looking for a king's ransom here to get this franchise back on playoff footing. They're
not exactly in the driver's seat with 1 year away from UFA.
No, they're not, except they are today because next season hasn't started yet. That window will start to close on Columbus. We know that. But there's some teams that are desperate for blue line help. And you saw what blue lines can do at playoff time. Blue lines be difference makers along with top goaltenders.
Jordan, can we get Mac on TikTok today? Can we get him a TikTok account?
For what reason? What are we doing?
I don't know. If this guy's making if the NHL paid this 21-year-old $1 million a year, surely we can get Mac on there for I don't know.
My clock is tick-tocking right now to get off this show.
I don't think I have an analog clock in my house. I guess that just shows the difference in generations. There are some people on TikTok that are your age group who are ironically funny, and they do weird. There's this one security guard that I saw that dances to Taylor Swift at night, and I think he went pretty viral. But yeah, some interesting conversation. Some people thinking that some people other hockey YouTubers should be doing it, and he's not a hockey guy. Clark chimed in and said, hey, he is a hockey guy. He's from Toronto, has been playing his whole life, all that stuff. So I guess we'll just have to see how it develops.
Listen, you got to keep trying. That's all you got to do is you got to keep marketing and you got to keep trying.
I like the NHL for trying it. I really do. I think it shows, the NHL is on top of things. They're trying to sell the game still. I mean, you said it at the first of the show. There's hardly any interest in the Boston area on the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, come on. Boston is an original six, and you're hearing minimal about the Stanley Cup finals. You told me NBC is struggling. I mean, come on.
Yeah, a lot of work ahead of them.
What is Canadian TV doing? Are they knocking it out of the park?
No, they're disappointed as well. But there's also the French component that a lot of them are watching in French, not in English, and that took away from Sportsnet's numbers. But
listen, so I guess because I watch the U.S. network, does that hurt Sportsnet?
They miss you. For sure they miss you.
Okay. Good. I don't, by the way, I don't listen to the US network because I'm trying to hurt Sportsnet's numbers. I listen to the US network because I don't want to listen to Sportsnet. That's why.
That's because your own voice isn't on it.
No, I could care less about that. I just, anyway, let's not go there.
All right, let's not go there. Hey, not bad for a live feed out of Boston, don't you think?
I thought you were pretty good today. You were
not bad.
On your game today. Yeah, you're on your game. I like it. And you don't have all that bullshit in your background, all that the Real Kyper spinning, because it makes it when you're on Real Kyper's set, all that shit in the background gives me vertigo worse than I have it.
Well, I don't have to worry about vertigo when I'm staring at all your Florida Panther crap either. So
yeah, that's all
okay.
Clark stuff. Ricky Vive asked me if those are my skates. I said, no, those are Clark's skates when he played Might in Detroit.
Now, you did Ricky Vive's podcast.
For an hour.
Yeah, does he know how to squeeze out the real Mac like I do?
Well, it was easy because all I wanted to do was talk about my career, and I kept thinking, who the hell wants to listen to this?
Who cares about that?
Exactly. I was nodding off talking about my career. Like, how boring is that?
Before we sign off, give us a quick update on the vertigo. How are you feeling? What's going on here? We're concerned.
I went to Charlottetown for acupuncture yesterday. I'm going back Friday morning for acupuncture again. The goddamn guy stuck a needle. I said, I was told I've had acupuncture before and it didn't hurt. He put a needle in my toe. I said, it's my neck that's bothering me. What the hell are you putting a needle in my toe for?
It's all
connected, bro.
Oh,
right? It's all connected.
He had a needle in my toe, a needle in my calf, a needle in my friggin' finger, and I'm thinking and he said, is it hurting? I said, yeah, it's hurting. He said, well, it'll die down. I'll be back in 20 minutes, he said. Anyway.
Something tells me you didn't give him that finger, you gave him another finger.
Anyway, it's trying. I'm trying.
Well, we're glad you feel a little better.
Okay, bud.
All right, we're going to let you go. Get a good rest. We're going to try this again Friday. So stay healthy.
Thanks, I will.
All right, Doug Maclean, everybody from PEI. Kyper out of Boston on the road, minus the RV, but I hope you had a great hour. Hey, we brought it to you. Got in a good hour, Mac. Good job today, pal.
Anything to help.
Enjoy game 2, everybody. We'll see if Doug's prediction of the Montreal Canadiens to tie this series comes to fruition. But
I'm nervous.
He's on a roll right now. No question Montreal needs a little Doug Maclean power. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you're watching for the first time, hit the subscribe button, leave those comments, and we'll see you Friday on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Enjoy.